Wow. So hello, everyone. We're so happy to have Michelle Henderson here today, who is the author of Spiritual Nurturing for Intuitive Children, her new book that just came out in January of this year. So we're so happy she's here to talk to us about her journey and about her new book. And we just want to say, welcome, Michelle. Thank you for coming to talk to our group here today.
Well, thank you so much. I am so excited. This is a wonderful topic to have a discussion on. So I am definitely looking forward to it.
Well, I'm going to just read your bio and give people a little more background about you. So Michelle Henderson has worked in education as a teacher, educational diagnostician, and behavior analyst for 30 years. And in 2021, Michelle became a certified spiritual advisor with psychic medium certifications through the Lisa Williams International School of Spiritual Development. Now, with the knowledge she obtained through her lifelong work with children, she became passionate about helping intuitive children embrace their gifts. Michelle also shares her innovative ideas with other light workers, giving them direction about supporting families of intuitive children. And her book, Spiritual Nurturing for Intuitive Children, Training Parents to Embrace and Enhance Their Psychic Child's Ability, was published on January 5th of 2022. And so she has different contact information. So I'll make sure that goes out into the group so they'll know how to see your website, which is MichelleHendersonMedium.com, and your Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and all that will be put out in the group so they can know how to follow your work and reach out to you.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
So, wow. So we're so happy to have you here. Now, I just we'll start off by love for everyone to hear your journey as an intuitive person. Just take us through how things started for you as in your childhood as a highly intuitive child, and just your journey to where you have gotten to today.
All right. And I'll give you the short version. Okay. So whenever I was younger, and it was one of those things that you did not talk about. And so when I was younger, I could feel the different energies in the room. I didn't know exactly what it was. I wasn't really afraid of it. And now when we went to like museums or, I could really feel the energy there as well. But it was a different kind of energy, and it was a much more heavier energy. But in my house, as a little girl, I really felt it. And it was more of a soothing energy. But, and I was very, empathetic. I would come home and cry every day. And I'm going, why am I so upset? And, later I found out, I was feeling the other kids' emotions, if they get emotionally upset or whatever. And I also had a lot of where I knew exactly what somebody was thinking. I wasn't really afraid of it, but whenever I started talking about it, everybody, again, it was hush hush, because I grew up in the Bible Belt of Texas. And of course, that's a scary thing. Don't open that door. And so I just kind of kept to myself. And then in my 20s, Spirit came knocking at my door, and they really wanted to say hello and say, all right, it's time. But I wasn't completely ready, to work as a psychic medium or an intuitive. So what I did is I did find a psychic medium, and I said, can you help me? I need some help because I don't know how to control it. I don't know what to do. And she said, absolutely. So that's where it started. But I continued to work with kids in the school system, and I used my intuitiveness to help them. I knew exactly what kind of program they needed. I knew what the parents needed to hear and kind of, help them with the healing. And then, oh my goodness, right before COVID, I said, you know what? It's time. I need to come out, and I really want to work in this business as a light worker. And so I started taking workshops, and COVID hit. So every workshop was online, and I kept meeting all these psychic mediums who said, yes, when I was little, I couldn't also talk about it. My mother shut it down. They were afraid of it. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And it just all of a sudden, when I was meditating one time, it really came to me, you need to write a book to help other families. And it really, and I was so grateful because I feel like the divine really helped me prepare for it, being a teacher, being a diagnostician working with special needs kids, and also being a behavior analyst working with families in the home. And so I knew a little bit about how to work with families. And so that's how the book came to be. And I tried to not make it as clinical because, I tend to be clinical and everything because of communication purposes. But it's just something I was compelled to do. And it just something I had to do. And I know everybody has that. It's like something that's in you and in your heart. And so this is where I am here today.
Wow. Well, that's wonderful because there's so many people that are going to benefit from the book that you've written and all that you've put in here. And like you said, it not being clinical, it's easy for anyone to pick it up and to look at it and be able to use this information to help them. And you said something interesting. I didn't even think about back to my childhood that you used to cry a lot. And I did too. I used to come home crying all the time. And sometimes I just didn't know why. My mother would always be like, why are you crying? But I just cried a lot all the time after being at school. So that's just interesting that you said that.
I know. See, as you talk to more and more people who have gone through it, you're going, oh, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. And my mother would always say, go to your room and just cry it out. And I'd say, okay. And I was in there a lot.
So that's great because I had older brothers and they would always be like, who is bothering you? Well, we'll take care of it. And I was like, I would just be crying and I never knew why I was crying. I'd just be crying. So that's very fascinating.
Well, I'm glad you had an aha moment. And I know, as well, whenever I was doing research for the book, I came across where a lot of kids with autism have that telepathic communication, especially the nonverbal. And I had that aha moment too, going, oh my goodness, that's how I could really calm a child down. I didn't know what I was doing, not only with my energy, but also with soft thoughts, helping them calm down telepathically. So see, you just never know. I mean, if you feel like you know everything, you're in the wrong place.
That's true. Wow. But that's good. And I think the more we talk about these things, that's why I was like another, psychic medium into it to share their journey, because so many people will hear something for their story, like, that they didn't realize or connect into that, I experienced that, or I felt that way. And it goes back to that, not knowing you're not alone, that this is something that's common, that when we start talking, you understand that and you share those common stories. So that's very fascinating. So one of the things I want to ask you, because you are a parent as well, are any of your children highly intuitive? And when did you first notice any experiences that they had?
Absolutely. It was very interesting because I never really talked about it with the kids. They knew that I was real interested in the metaphysical world and just love to read up and do all of this. And I'd always say, use your gut feeling, just use your intuition. But yeah, so all three of them do, but they're all using different clairs. Okay. So my oldest is using the clair that things, just know something's going to happen. And all three of them really don't talk about it, but they tell me about their experiences. Now, my middle child, who is a boy, he does a lot of talking in his sleep. So spirit comes and talks to him when he is sleeping. So all of a sudden he'll start mumbling and he'll start talking and he'll tell you who he talked to. One time he said, there was a Native American girl who came to my room and just wanted to talk. And so I think that, he said, I had a conversation in my dream. Then my youngest one has a lot of the same abilities as I do. She can actually hear them talking, and also not really in the mind's eye, but outside. She can hear it and she can see the apparitions and she can feel that energy. She's afraid of crowds going out in public. And when she was younger, she didn't understand because it would be such she was in a panic mode because she was feeling all this energy. So it took a while to kind of help her with different exercises to help her know how to deal with that. And now she is so interested. She's 24. And I think she's beginning to become spiritually aware and have an awakening. So we'll see.
So how old was she when you first noticed that, you know, that she had these abilities and you started working with her?
I want to say she was about 6 whenever because she was my child that was afraid of everything. And when I say afraid of everything, just being in a room and just kind of feeling that energy. And I knew exactly what was going on. So I would have to walk her through it. And whenever she was afraid of crowds, I would kind of do those exercises with her. But yeah, I would say probably about 6 years old is whenever it started. But she didn't really talk about it until she became a middle schooler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. And you know, and you said something again that I know, like my son does, and that's he does a lot of talking in his sleep, and he'll be laughing and like having conversations. And so he'll wake up in the morning sometimes and he's tired, but I know he's been talking with spirit through the night.
Absolutely. And I told my son one time, I said, well, ask them. I said, if spirit comes and they start talking, just ask them, just, you know, say, what do you want? Why are you here? And he goes, I'm not going to tell them that. I want the conversation. So, okay.
So your third child also has abilities as well?
Yes. So my oldest, she's the one that feels the just knowing. You know, I bet if she worked on it, she could, but really, any of them, they don't really talk about it too much. And they don't really want to do it as a living, but I'm sure they use it in a day to day. And whenever I came out as a psychic medium and started working in this business, they're going, I'm not surprised. And they were so supportive.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you raised a good point. That's something, because just because you have intuitive abilities, not everybody wants to go in the route of being a medium. And that's perfectly fine, because these abilities come to us to be helpful in whatever profession, in whatever way that we use it in our daily lives. It helps us to use those gut instincts and just those inspirations and those knowings to be, you know, enhance whatever we want to do.
Absolutely. And I think too, we need to have a conversation of how to control it, because I think it becomes, you know, you're kind of afraid of it when you cannot control it and you don't understand what's going on. So I think just education and getting that knowledge, understanding, because everybody, you know, have different experiences. And so I think we just, you know, need to really listen and talk to a child or even an adult and talk through it, because a lot of times you cannot believe how many people have experienced spiritual events and they don't realize it, and they're kind of thinking about it and they don't know who to talk to. So conversations, once again, need to take place.
That is absolutely true, and very true. And that's why I think what we're doing and what the work you're doing, what the work we're doing here, just getting those conversations going more and more and more, so that people are understanding. So I'm saying that there's more people out. This is happening. People have these experiences, and it's not weird. It's not strange, but it's something we just need to start understanding and embracing, and then knowing how to talk with our children about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to ask you, did you always know when your children presented, had you had your awakening before they started presenting to know, or did you have to go on a research and figure it out and, you know, learn how to work with them?
Well, no, I had my spiritual awakening before I had children. And I had already educated myself before. So whenever these things started happening, I'm going, I know exactly what's going on. So yes.
So that's really good. And that's very important, because for me, it was the opposite. It was like, it started happening, and then I had to kind of, my son and I were opening at the same time. I had to kind of go back and educate myself to be able to help him. So that's why I think this is important in having these conversations, because for those parents who maybe aren't awakened, you know, to the fact they have these intuitive abilities or don't feel they have them, at least if they have this information, they'll know what to spot in their child.
Absolutely, because I think people become afraid of it, and then the child becomes afraid of it. So it's kind of like a domino effect. So absolutely, and you know, and I think like your experience, I think a lot of parents will be going, "Oh, that is me."
Absolutely. So I was gonna, your book, because I love your book. Your this, for anybody who doesn't have it, they need to get a copy of it, because it's such a helpful resource. And I wanted you to talk a little bit more about the book, on, a little more about how it came to be, how long it took you to write it, just some of the inspirations, what really drove you to write it, and some of what your hopes are with the book and what you want people to get out of it.
Right. Great question. So, yeah, whenever it's very interesting because I feel like we go through the same experiences as what we know about goes into anything that we write, because I know there's a lot of people out there that have written things but haven't done anything with it. So while I was going through a lot of the workshops, tuning in my skills, because even though you're an intuitive, it takes practice. I mean, any talent that you have to know how to make it even better and control it better. So what I did is I took everything that I knew that I learned, especially in the beginning stages of tuning in my gifts. And so I thought, you know what, I need to also look at it from a child's point of view. How can we take these exercises and use that for children who are intuitive? And being in education, I'm going, oh my gosh, I know exactly how to modify things. I know how to adapt things so that it will make sense to children and the parents. And so like meditation. And so meditation is completely different for children than it is adults. So is yoga. So you've got to approach everything as a fun, and creative. So everything, a lot of people don't realize whenever you're intuitive, you're using that creative side of your brain. You're not using your logic. If you use that logic brain, that ego gets in the way and you're not using your intuitiveness. So a lot of times, especially if you have a child that is highly intuitive and they don't want to talk about it, bring out those crayons, bring out, a drawing and be with your child and do the exact same thing. And for some reason, when you're creating things, a child will open up and they'll start to get excited. You can bring out puppets, and talk and have a conversation and say, well, tell me what spirit said to you, or give spirit a name. But so there's also about crystals, which crystals are better with children. But again, if you look at the book and and if it doesn't resonate with you and you're going, oh no, my family does not use crystals, then, use something that will work, because not everybody is on the same spiritual pathway. And so I'm hoping that the book kind of gives everybody, an idea of how to use these strategies to help their child so that they feel supportive. And because if you are in a particular religion sect and you're going, oh no, we're not going to do crystals, it's okay. You don't have to use crystals, but it gives you different exercises that you can use. And it also, the book, what I originally did is I wanted to train other spiritual intuitive light workers who work with families, give them a guidebook, a tool book of how to work with these families. And at the very end of the book, there's some case studies about children who are intuitive and what kind of plan you can put into place to help these kids. Well, that was my goal in the very beginning, but now as people are buying it, families are going, I can do this. I don't need a light worker, which is wonderful. Mm-hmm. It kind of gives them that toolbox.
And I absolutely agree. And that's what I love about the book, is because it is the way you've put it together. Everything is so simple and easy to understand. Like you said, for children, the parents can pick it up and really go back through the exercises, because you have about 22 exercises at the back of the book with sheets that parents can easily take and sit down with their children and work through them. And then the exercises at the end of the chapters. So it is very, very easy for parents to use personally. And then and like you said, also for light workers, and then the marriage between the two, if you have a person who's a light worker, medium, intuitive, working with the families with this, that's even a better enhancement and pair for the family. So it's really a great tool.
Oh, right. Well, thank you very much. And again, I felt like I was guided and I knew exactly what it was needing to be in there. And you asked me how long it took to write. It took about 4 months, and then it went to an editor. And so again, I just had exactly what I needed in there, and so I feel like, Spirit kind of guided me along the way.
Yeah, and I definitely feel that in this, because because I know as me as a parent looking for something in the beginning when all of this started on where do you go, how do you work with this, what do you do with the exercises that you put in there, it's a great starting point, for parents to read through the book to understand, the energy centers of the body, and then to do these exercises with you. You have a great place to start. And
Right.
there's other books out there, and even our website that we have supporting this Facebook group, there's a bunch of books, listed out there that have been around for parents to get and to, read and help educate themselves on. But this one, like you said, is geared toward children and geared toward families and actually creating a program to help them. And that's the beauty of what you've put together.
Well, thank you very much. And I will tell you too, Sarah Wiseman has a wonderful book that talks about the different developmental stages of children. Because kind of like what I said, yoga and, meditation, a different approach with children. Well, her book approaches it from a developmental point of view, looking at the different ages. And so, like you said, I think there's so many, wonderful resources that are beginning to develop. And hopefully with you and myself can get it out there, more and more books will probably pop up. I am beginning to see more podcasts about intuitive children. So I think we're beginning, again, that little seed is being planted.
And it's time. It's definitely time. And in the book you mentioned by Sarah Wiseman, Your Psychic Child is on the website. That's a good one. And then Raising Your Intuitive Children is another one that has some developmental stages in there too for kids and what to look for. So, and all that's helpful because everybody, they have different stages. You have to understand how they're going to either be open or shut down and how you need to work with them and all of it. So all of that is helpful information. Like you said, I'm glad that the word is, this is bubbling up because the time is now. And I'm glad the podcasts and the books and the information is starting to filter out there.
Absolutely. And when we're talking about what came to mind too, when we talk about developmental ages, sometimes a child will come along and will not be in that criteria. They may surprise you and you're going, oh my gosh, this is like a little woman or a little man talking, and they're like only 5 years old. So that's when you nurture where the child is, at the same time. Because, from a teacher point of view, we, have certain things we teach them first and second and third, but sometimes you have kids that come along that are ready for something completely different. So it's almost like 16-year-olds, a lot, I don't know what it is, but a lot of psychic mediums I've talked to, they go, oh, they're not ready to do any readings. And I'm thinking 16-year-olds can work at fast food. They can work at Walmart if they are ready, why not? And so, and of course, with parent permission and everything else. So you really have to look at where the child is.
That is, and I love that you just said that, because to share a quick story of what I just went through. My son just came to me 2 days ago, and he knows, I work with people and do readings for people. And sometimes I'll use cards with them, but we've never talked about it and he doesn't bother us. But he came to me, he said, Mom, he's like, I want to learn about tarot cards, and I was like, okay. And I was like, what do you want to know? And then he started mentioning about, well, I would like to know how they work. And I said, well, we can do simple card spreads or 3 card spreads and 5. He's like, there's different spreads. He said, no, I need to do 5 card spreads. And I was like, okay, 5 card spreads. So he said, it just popped in my head that I need to start doing this now. And then he asked me, can I start doing it for readings for my friends? And I'm like, this just came out of nowhere. But I said, that's just, he's being called to it right now to open his intuition up even more.
Absolutely. And I think in tarot cards of all things, and I think that is wonderful. It's funny how, or not really funny, but it's really interesting how people go towards certain cards. Because I tried tarot cards and I couldn't do, so I do oracle cards. But I think that's fascinating that he knew immediately which cards that he needed.
Right, because I've never said tarot cards to him because I use oracle cards too. But he said he's just popped in his head, and so it's like what you said, and that's the one thing I've learned through all of this, through the whole time, was meeting the child where they are. So we don't push anything on him. We let him come to us. And when he just said that the other day, I was like, okay, it's time.
Absolutely. And see, I think Spirit, talk to you as well so that you could, both of you I know are really embracing each other. And I think that's what's important.
So let me ask you, because you were talking about the different stages of development. If you can go through just what you, from your research and writing the book, what are some of the common things at the different ages that people can look at, from the toddlers to the tweens to the teens, just kind of what you've learned?
Yeah. And oh, yeah. And what is very, very interesting that, I've learned even more after doing the research is that the younger the child is, and I'm talking 2, 3, and 4 years old, that, loved ones will come across. It will be grandparents, of course, and it's always great. It seems like it's more grandparents than anything else, but sometimes it can be somebody else. It can be an imaginary friend, but it seems like Spirit or, and people who have crossed over, they really show the younger children apparitions. They show what they used to look like, or they may come in a different form of an animal or, a fun person. I don't want to say clown because clowns are scary now. But anyway, anything that's very soothing to the child, they'll come across. And of course, the child didn't think anything about it. They'll have this conversation with them. Now, as they get older, 4 or 5, they begin socially aware, and they become being more aware, and cognitively they're thinking through things. And so this is a time where they may become afraid of it. And so they may approach their parents, they may approach, their friends. Guess what? I'm, talking to somebody, and they really don't know what's going on. So that is kind of a vital age of really talking to your child and using some exercises and creative things. And then teenager. Of course, we're very socially, the teens want to be supported by each other. They want to be accepted, and they're all going through that hormonal change. So not only are you feeling, energy and feelings of others, but you're also going through that chemical change in your own body, right? So they may begin to, and I don't, experience like Gothic. They might go Gothic, or they may, go just the opposite way. So the parents really need to be aware of this and to see what they're experiencing, because they're just trying to find themselves. So if they go Gothic, I know some Gothic kids that they are great kids. They're not doing anything to harm themselves, but you really need to watch it and see what if they get into the darkness. But there is a big difference, between darkness and light. And when you're a teenager, sometimes you're just trying to find yourself an experience. And then of course, 18 is when they're going, okay, now I know who I am. They're feeling comfortable with it. But that's just a typical, timeline.
Great. And I think that's important for parents to hear. And what do you suggest for the kids who kind of shut down? And if a parent is trying to get them to open up, they know they have abilities, but they're not wanting to talk about it, or feel they can't relate to the parent, or they've shut down. What do you suggest as a way that maybe you could open the door for, the child to not shut down and maybe be willing to entertain the conversation and start, just knowing that they're not alone in all of this.
Oh, absolutely.
What would you suggest for parents?
It really depends on age, but if they're an older child and really doesn't want to talk about it, and a lot of times they may not want to talk to you about it. Maybe they can talk to another child who is intuitive, or they can talk to another adult who is experiencing the same thing. So I would, again, open the conversation. Your kid will probably go, not say anything and go, whatever, but again, plant that seed. Say, hey, if you want to talk about it, I am here. We can find somebody that you can talk to who is experiencing the same thing, because we know that you are not alone. And maybe, you can watch a show together, because there's some good shows that are coming out. that really talk about the metaphysical world, or even, I don't want to say a celebrity, but somebody who is known for their gifts and they do podcasts, maybe start watching podcast shows with your child. But I would not push them, because whenever they're ready, they will come forward. For a younger child, again, they may be afraid to tell you or talk to you about it because they don't want to disappoint you. And so you may, again, just sit down, play games with them, draw with them, just kind of bring up that conversation. And if, again, they don't want to talk about it, just let it go and approach it a different way at a later time.
That's all very good information, very good tips for parents, because that's something I know that parents, like you said, kids and teens, they start trying to fit in. They may not want to talk about it, but I think just what you said is beautiful. Having them knowing that they can have the exposure through whether shows or podcasts, or even maybe taking them to talk to somebody else who's like them, or even a medium, intuitive psychic medium person, so that they can maybe see that you're open to them, starting to express it. I think that's all beautiful tools to help them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know that, and I love how you keep saying alone, because, that is the worst thing, because I know whenever I couldn't really talk to anybody about it, you feel very isolated and you feel alone. And, and then when I started taking classes, I'm going, I'm not alone anymore. I'm not going crazy, that kind of thing.
And that's how I felt too, is once we were able to figure out that, I started having experiences that were just kind of right in my face, like, this is what's happening with you, and got into an intuitive development class. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm not alone. This is not so strange and so, weird, and being able to talk about it. And I think that was one of the best things that happened, was for our son, is when I did open up and start talking about my abilities with him. We were kind of keeping that quiet from my son. And we knew his were opening and mine were opening, but we weren't talking about it with him because we didn't understand how strong his abilities were, or how highly intuitive he was. And so he didn't open up because he was thinking something was wrong or weird with him. But when we started sitting down as a family and started having these conversations, it was like, that's when he opened up. That's when he really opened up, and we started sharing, and he was like, okay, so there's nothing wrong with me. And then he ended up being on the show, like we talked about, the Psychic Kids show. But I think that dialogue and keeping that openness between parent and child, and being willing to talk about whatever they want to talk about, but not dismissive, and let them know that it's not strange or weird, is so important.
Absolutely, because they need to be safe. They need to feel that safeness. And, because I know I don't like talking to people when they think I'm weird, or, but you do, let me tell you though, you do reach the period in time when you find yourself and you're comfortable with yourself and you're showing people your authentic self. You become, I don't care what people think of me, because everybody is on a different journey. And to me, it is so spiritual. Why wouldn't I do this? That type of thing. But again, if people, talk to me in an ill manner, I don't judge. I just, because they're on a different journey, I'm on a different journey. You do you, I do me.
That is right. That is absolutely true. And, and along with that, and I'm going to tap into your school background too, because seeing this from a school perspective, and seeing highly intuitive children in the school, because they're in all the schools, they're everywhere. How do you have a recommendation or suggestion, having been a teacher, and for parents that have highly intuitive children? School is such an important time, and sometimes they're not always understood in the school environment. Do you have any suggestions or recommendations from what you've experienced as a teacher, and how to work with these children, and how to suggest to parents that they work with their teachers or the school to help support them?
Oh, absolutely. And what I used to do, because whenever I really was with the parents in the school system, I would talk to them privately and say, I think your child is going through something right now. And so can you tell me something that is going on at home? Are they experiencing different things? And, and the parents may, they sometimes they go, oh yeah, this happens, but we don't really talk about it. So you kind of fill it into whatever the parent wants. Now, if the parent don't want to talk about it, I wouldn't talk about it anymore, or even talk to the child about it. But if the child was very open about it, I'd really listen to the child and support the child in whatever they were trying to say, because it does come out in their writing. Because, as a teacher, you always say, okay, write what you know, what's happening. And they all have journals in the classroom and they'll write. And so a lot of times that it will come out there. But I don't ever talk about it or, tell them what to do if a parent does not give me permission. But I think like you said, I think we're becoming a period of time where, the teachers can actually talk to other teachers or administrators and have a parent come in and maybe talk to a classroom of where their child is and talk to the kids about it. And so, again, just planting that seed. So maybe one classroom at a time, and then it will expand to the whole school.
Because I have to say for Ethan, with us being on the Psychic Kids show, it did open up a conversation in his classroom at the school. But even before the show came out and that he was on there, just what you said, Michelle, he was drawing and writing things about him, his experiences or his unique experiences, and drawing pictures. And I remember the teacher one time showing us this picture and said, your son drew this. And I was like, well, and it was of him kind of like being outside of having like an out-of-body experience and all of this. And I was like, well, but this is his experience. And it just opened the dialogue. And the teacher said, well, usually I don't believe in this, but he was open to it. And then he started researching and exploring it, but he gave Ethan the platform to be able to talk to his class about it. And so that started helping his classmates to start understanding when he was talking about things they maybe didn't understand, they were teaching about being open, at least being open to other people's experiences and not being, judging. So that was helpful.
I think I hear another book that needs to be published from Ellen because I think that is a great experience. And, maybe even sharing his experience, and the drawings that he would draw. I mean, that would be such an interesting book for you to publish.
Something to think about. But I think it's parents keeping an open mind. And when these things do happen, because we could have dismissed the pictures. We could have just said, oh, it's just make believe, but we knew there was more with that. And even just another example, since we're just talking for parents to understand, he writes, sometimes he'll be sitting in class and the teachers are saying, well, he's not paying attention, but he'll come home and he's written a speech. And he's written a speech about something that's very profound. And so we started sharing that. And it's like, because those are, he's got his gifts, he gets inspired and he's writing those things down. And so I think it's really just letting the kids know that it's okay to express themselves and like I said, not dismissing it, and then just starting a dialogue with your teachers so they know.
Absolutely. And I love that his teacher embraced it and shared it with the class and said, okay, this is something, this is him, this is his unique self and we need to share it. And I think that is awesome.
Yeah. And I think that's why more of this conversation is like, not to judge it, just to be open, that everyone's experience, like you've been saying, everybody's experience is different and it's okay. It's just, we have to talk to understand.
Absolutely. And I know, and I think the more conversations that happen, especially in school systems, I think things will, because it really does take a long time because, school systems are, set in a certain way, and it's really hard to change things because it's been that way for a long time. But I think because of, and I hate to bring up COVID, but the energy shift that has happened, and I think it has and so people are beginning to become more spiritually aware, knowing that there's more out there, and I think things are going to be changing. It's almost like, the 60s, how, we went through kind of a spiritual time. I think we're going through another spiritual time as we speak.
I 100% agree with you, Michelle. I really do. It is a big shift going on. And I think they are becoming more spiritual and looking for, to understand the bigger picture of life and what's happening. And even just going back to school, I do want to just tell people too, if you look on our Highly Intuitive Kids website, there is an educator support piece in there. So you can go in there and look, and we have about some of the challenges they face at school, some of the, the learning styles, how that plays a part into intuitive kids and their classroom environment. So take a look there, because the more information you have, if things do come up at school with your child, you'll know how to help talk to your teachers and help to support the child at school, because they spend more time at school than even at home at times. So because of the amount of hours of the day. And so their school environment is really important to make sure that they're feeling safe, supported, and heard and understood there too.
Absolutely. I think that's wonderful. I did not realize that you had that on your website. I need to go back and look at that, because yes, that's something I need to talk about as well. That is awesome.
Yeah. So there's educator support, there's parent support, educator support, and for other professionals. So it could be mental health professionals, family advocates, whoever. There's just enough information to get people to start looking at it, parents to educate themselves, and then to be able to go do more research from there that's needed, but to really bring to light that children having intuitive abilities and being highly intuitive, it's real. And this is something that we need to understand, because they just need a different kind of support.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're on the East Coast. I'm in Central. So now we need to find someone on Pacific Coast, and then we'll all come together.
Right. Well, this has been, I just love how your work and how what we've just launched, what we're doing with the Facebook group and the website is all coming together to really help support parents in a way that's needed right now, because more and more children are coming in with these heightened intuitive abilities, and they're just coming into an environment and a system that hasn't fully understood it and embraced it. But we're at that point that it's going in that direction with all the work that's coming out for that to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is so exciting. I'm just excited to see this generation of kids be supportive, and embrace. And they're probably going, oh, no, we're trying to teach you something.
That's right.
It could be.
That's what they've come in with, so much knowledge to help. And if we let them stay connected to their abilities, it's amazing to see what they'll bring through at a younger age to help with, just advancing everything, our whole societies and all, to a much different stage sooner than when, they're cut off from their abilities and have to try and figure it out later on in life and reconnect.
Oh, I agree. Totally. I agree. But so I think they're going to raise the energy, and oh my gosh, it's going to be beautiful. We're going to be able to learn so much from them.
So Michelle, so you've gotten this one under your belt, and this is a great book. What other projects for you are on the horizon? What else are you doing to help raise awareness about, your work with intuitive children?
Oh, right. Well, and I'm excited to see where this is going to lead. But right now, I'm being drawn, and it's so interesting to do podcast after podcast after podcast, because just to get the conversation with different people, and really the conversations need to take place of people who are not really aware of what intuitiveness is all about. So just trying to educate others of it. And then I'm also I'm developing workshops to also help train light workers. And they can go to my website and become a member. And there's some resources and there's videos that they can watch. And we meet one time a month to go over any questions that they may have, because every family is different. And the parents can also become a member and have those questions as well. And then I'm having workshop for children so that they connect with each other, and so that we can kind of tell them that they are not alone, like what we're talking about, and teach them exercises that they can do. And of course, it's approached differently from a younger child versus an older child. So if it's a younger child, I will definitely work with the parents during the workshop. If it's an older child, sometimes not so much. I'll tell the parent what we're doing, but sometimes the child wants to have that, which is great, say that's me. I'm going to do it, not my parent.
Right.
That ownership.
So, and you have a workshop that'll be coming up soon, right?
Yes. So June the 1st. All right. And it will be online. And I'm really excited about it because we can have children from all over. It doesn't have to be locally. And so you don't have to live in Texas to register for it. And it's a 6-week workshop. And I have it for an hour each time, but it could also turn into 2 hours. And it's really just connecting these kids. And whoever that registers for the workshop will pretty much tell me what curriculum I need to have for these kids. So it really depends on who registers, on what we're going to talk about, because sometimes they already know this stuff and they want to move forward. So it just depends on where they are.
So that's great. So another resource, and that's what we want to do. That's here in, just in our website, just push out information so that parents know that there are these workshops, and there's, the podcast, different things that they can listen to get information and help them and to help support them. So we will be posting your workshop in the group for anybody who wants to be able to, take advantage of that and connect with other families through your workshop that you're going to be offering. So that's wonderful. And so we'll be looking forward to, all that you have going and the more that you're going to have coming out to help support the children. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm excited for you as well. I mean, it's very interesting. We were talking about that there's no, chances, coincidences. And when we found each other, we found out we had so much in common.
That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. Because when we launched this project and your book came into our awareness, and it's like, oh, this is perfect. We have to pair this up because this is more information that's going to be helpful to parents for them to come to this. Kind of the website being like a one-stop shop and come here, be able to find a lot of information. And then, like your book has just very easy to follow exercises for parents and for anyone who wants to start working with families. So the more we can get the information out and get people trained up, the more support the kids everywhere is going to have. So it's
absolutely.
Really
I'm excited.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask if there's any questions, if any parent has any question that they want to ask to Michelle, or if not, we'll just continue to talk for a few minutes and wrap up. We're almost at the end of our hour, but it's been wonderful talking to you, Michelle, because this is just like I said, a great resource. I encourage anybody to go out. It's on Amazon, to go purchase the book, have it in your toolkit, because the more that parents can have access to information that can help them, the better, and with those simple exercises, you can sit and start your child young.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you were asking me at the very end of the book, there are some color pages, and yes, you can copy as much as you need, so your child can do those exercises. Don't worry. Don't think that you have to write in the book. That's why it's nice and big, and you can copy that. Being a teacher, I used to do that. So you can copy as many as you need to help your child.
And so you would recommend even those exercises for kids of all ages, from young through teens.
Right. Absolutely. And, because a lot of kids, now there's some exercises that talk about different feelings that teenagers may already know, and that you have to talk real basic feelings. But there again, as teenagers happen, you can get more specific. So you may have to approach it from a different point of view, because when they start talking to spirit may kind of give them a feeling, and they need to know how to put it into words, which can be very difficult.
Yeah. And I think even just with parents, like you said, it can be modified for teens, but just seeing the basics of the worksheets that are in the book, it gives you an idea of how to start approaching and making it, talking to the level where your child is with it.
Right.
Now, we do have a question in the chat that I'm going to read here. It says, this is from Stephanie. Do you have any advice to deal with anxiety for children? Is this a sign of being intuitive and feeling energies?
And, and it could be, I mean, it really depends on the situation that is happening. Sometimes they can feel that energy and it kind of makes them anxious, especially being in a crowd. And what I would do is do breathing exercises with your child. Okay. Hold on. I've got a little object that I want to grab real quick. I've got to take these out. Hold on.
Sure.
Okay. So this is something that you can do with your child, and you can purchase this in any toy store or anything. And it's a sphere that goes in and out for people who are just listening. So what you do with breathing exercises for a child, this is very kinesthetic. They can actually see what's happening. So whenever you're breathing in, it gets bigger, right? And so that's the air. So it's nice and big. Now, whenever you breathe out, you go very slowly. Well, it's not going in. Here we go. But if you do breathing exercises like that, a child that has anxiety, you practice at home, and then you practice for 5 minutes or so. And then when a situation occurs and they get anxious, you go, remember that breathing exercises that we practiced? Let's do it very quickly. And then kind of do the breathing exercises. So because a child, whenever they go through anxiety, and even adults, what do? You stop breathing. And so once you kind of get that breathing movement in, you feel much better and you tend to relax. And it depends on if the child is really, really young, you can give them like a little teddy bear or some stuffed animal or some toy or some type of fidget that they can have. And you can say that is your safe toy. Or, or a mantra that they talk about, or a little prayer when they start getting anxious. So there's so many things. It could be a sign of intuitiveness, depending on, not knowing what they're feeling. That can also go with other, areas of, that a child will go through. If it occurs too much, I would definitely get it looked at. I mean, I always say, look at it from a medical point of view if you need to. But you can first try these exercises and have the child also create something. How are you feeling? Can you tell me about it? Paint, draw a face, looking really sad or something, or tell me why you're feeling sad or anxious. And the more you talk about it, the more the child will be able to tell you. I hope that helps.
Yeah. And that's wonderful, Michelle. And I will just add too, because I keep referring people to the website. There's a section for helpful techniques and everything that Michelle talked about. There's some videos and things on there about breathing exercises that you can click on, and they can do it also with some videos. I love what Michelle just showed with that tool. What is that called, Michelle? What's the actual name?
And I cannot remember the specific name, but it is a sphere. And oh my gosh. When you're put on the spot, I can't think of it right now. But you can find it, like Barnes and Nobles has it. But if you Google Spherin toy, it will come up.
Wow, that's great. I love that because I hadn't seen that. But check the website for the helpful techniques. And there's also something called tapping that you can teach children as young as 3 years old. And I think whatever the basis, wherever it's coming from, it can be a form of intuitiveness. It could be other things, but no matter what, any of these techniques will help them to manage through it, help manage the stressors around it.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse than having that anxiety come and not knowing what to do, because you get that you want to run away from it type thing, and you shut down, or they have meltdowns and they don't understand why. That's how they're showing you that they're anxious. They'll start throwing things and they'll have meltdowns and they'll start screaming. That all sometimes stems from being anxious, not angry, but anxious.
Absolutely. So, wow. This is great. We're already at the end of the time flew by so fast. We're having such a great conversation.
It usually does because I think we're both passionate. What you were saying, we're both passionate about it, working with children with intuitiveness. And I think when you find somebody that believes in the same way and you have an audience, it's like, okay, let's keep talking. We could be here a whole week.
We certainly could. But I want to thank you, Michelle. I want to thank Stephanie for the question that she sent in. I want to thank you, Michelle, for the wonderful conversation that we had. And people, I will place in the group how they can connect with you, reach out to you, and about your upcoming workshops for any parents who want to attend those and are available to attend those. But yeah, thank you. And we could always easily do another time to continue the conversation, because this was great.
Well, and it probably would be good later, like 5 months down or so, and things will develop. And we'll go, oh, we need to talk about that. So, as we experience these direction and guidance of how to help these kids, let's definitely come back together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We will do that. The more information updated, better. We will continue to push it out to everybody. So I just thank you so much for your time, Michelle. This has been wonderful. And we definitely will look forward to having you back here to talk again with us.
Oh, thank you very much. And I wish you lots of luck for your website. And I know it's going to be a big hit, that you're going to be able to help these parents, because you are a parent of an intuitive child.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And so we'll just, if all of us light workers, all of us just keep pushing out good information, we'll be able to help a lot of folks.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much. And we'll look forward to talking with you again at a later point.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Many blessings.
Same to you.